everyone! Welcome to the WESG Danish Qualifier. There's a lot of these qualifiers, actually, so it might be weird to have one for the Danish and then another for, what else was there? I think there was like Ireland had their own qualifier or something like that, which just usually doesn't happen, but for WESG, it does. There's a qualifier going on, I think, like every day or something for the next week, 2 weeks, or something like that. We're only going to be casting today, and by we I mean I am going to be casting today, solo, because Ruffian is sick, and then for tomorrow... Weird. And then for tomorrow we'll be casting the Central Europe qualifier, I want to say? Yeah, Central Europe qualifier. Beyond that, it's kind of up in the air. We're probably not going to do any more. I don't know who else is going to be covering that. I imagine TakeTV will for quite a few of them, but we have our own stuff planned for a lot of those days, and it just wouldn't work out. So enjoy this cast while you can, I suppose. There's only 7 people, I think. Hold on. 2, 6, 7. Nope, yeah, there's 7. Yep. There's a round of 8, except that Lily Canine got a bye, so there are 7 people in this qualifier. All best of 3s up until the finals, which is a best of 5. It's not going to be a very long cast at all, which is why I didn't mind solo casting. Not that I'd ever really complain regardless, if they had a legitimate reason, I suppose, but... I had to cast the Elimbly yesterday morning because Fear Dragon got in later than he thought he would and couldn't go to sleep. Today I'm casting solo because Rifkin probably got the PAX flu, which I heard is pretty powerful stuff. And he says he'll be fine by tomorrow, but I don't necessarily believe that, so... Hope you guys like a solo cast. Alright, the first match today is going to be a PvZ. In the bottom left, as the teal Zerg, it is Spazymazy. In the top right, as the purple Protoss, he is PappiJoe, a name that a lot of people who watch BaseTradeTV often enough should somewhat recognize. Not like we cast him a ton, but we do sometimes catch him, you know, in round of 16, round of 32, or something like that. Alright, a couple resubs. Of course, thank you, Wardy, who just resubbed for 8 months. Twitch Alerts is lagging behind. Denmark in capital letters. There you go. Sipsirium resub for 16 months. 11 minutes ago. And apparently we had a donation 19 hours ago from Noxio EDM. $6.72. I don't remember getting that. Yeah, we wouldn't have been casting at that point, so I don't know where that came from, but thank you for that donation. Yeah, so PappiJoe, as I said, we've cast him a couple of times. You know, Team Red Blood Pro, same as Lily Canine. Decent Protoss. I don't know much about Spazymazy. I think he was Masters when we got into it, but I honestly wasn't looking. I actually have no idea. But we'll see, I suppose, based on his play. I could probably take a guess. I don't know if there's any requirements to play in this tournament, by the way. I feel like if there wasn't any requirements, then everyone should have taken a shot at it, since there's only 7 people. I mean, it's only 1 person getting through, so it's not even that likely, even if there was like 5 people, if you were a bronze leaguer, for instance. But still, we did more than 7 people. There's like rules and stuff. You can check the bracket, and it has everything else, the members' comments even. Who writes comments on a qualifier? I don't know. But you can all see how many damn qualifiers there are. The UK, Ireland, Iceland, Northern Europe, Southeastern Europe. Countries I honestly don't know where they're located if you tried to get me to point them out on a map. Because I'm American and I don't give a shit. I just want to be clear that it is not the fact that America is poorly educated, which in some cases it is. If you have Europeans try and figure out what the fuck state is anywhere on the United States map, they wouldn't be able to do that shit either, so suck it. Anyway, of making up for my own limited knowledge. I really would not know anything about Europe if it wasn't for casting StarCraft. Adept gets in here to scout. Pro, of course, was scouting the timing on the third base for quite some time, and did see it. So it's pretty normal game. Macro here, galactic process. I don't know how the... I'm gonna guess it's a veto process. Seems to be the way to go in most online tournaments, unless it's like a weekly, in which case you give them a provided first map for two reasons. One, it makes the bracket go faster because there's no, like, you know, veto problems, but also it is just cleaner for the admin as well. There's actually a lot of reasons to do that. A couple of reasons not to do that, but they're weekly tournaments. This is going to qualify one person for a absolutely huge tournament. So it's pretty cool that, you know, there's so many, there's so many specific chances, I suppose. But it is one of the few tournaments that actually bothers to individualize the qualifiers like this. Usually just one big ol' Europe, get in here and deal with it. But not this one. Third base going down in this location has become a lot more popular lately for Prodosses. I still don't know if I really like it. I see some of the reasoning, especially if you do a diagonal wall off. It's kind of like, yeah, you can use Galactic Process for its ramps, you know, but it's also not necessary. And in some situations, I guess having a ramp could be a downfall. A too confident type of move. This also gets you a bit of a leaping off point offensively, so you know you're defending as well as once you defend well enough, you're attacking into what is usually the Zerg's fourth base, unless they take it, or even fifth actually, because they can take it here or here. Ling's running around, not doing too much. It really isn't that much of an action-packed game. I think I was playing. Yeah, did the co-op last night. You can check it out on my YouTube, I suppose, but I think the Base Trade YouTube should also have our co-op adventure uploaded soon. It wasn't that much of an adventure, I'm gonna be honest. This week's co-op mutation was really, really easy. Thank you to Kikai for the 5-month resub. Couple adepts coming in now. Phoenix is roaming around. It's very much so a macro game, which can happen on the Galactic Process. Because it is technically easy to get to 3 bases, although sometimes it's not so easy. You do see the rocks broken down occasionally really early on, or you do see a couple of Ling floods happen here and there, but technically with all the rocks being like it is in the map layouts, it should be easy to get to 3 bases. Phoenix, what are you doing? Well, they were distracting at least one of the queens. 7 drones went down to the adepts they transferred in. There we go. Picks up the queen. Should get the kill because that has enough energy. Pick it up again. There you go. Double Robo has finished up at the 3rd base, providing a little bit of SimCity. And the immortal count will steadily grow. PappiJoe having lost 7 drones, still at 60. Or sorry, Spazymazy. Still at 60 is not so bad. Trying to get to Hydralisk as well as a Baneling Nest now. I don't know what his Roach is doing in the middle of the map. They're kind of doomed. If the Phoenixes didn't catch him, the Immortals would have. The other matches are going on right now, by the way. The rest of the round of 8 matches. So the plan for today's cast is to do this round of 8 match on stream, and then the semifinal for Lily Canine, other semifinal, and then finals. So it really shouldn't be that long of a cast today. If it's longer than 3 hours, then I feel something went wrong. Or someone played like a stupidly long game. This isn't getting to stupidly long yet, and Phoenix went down. And there's some action going on, like another 5 drones just went down, but it is rather passive. Just a lot of, I guess, Protoss controlling the map and then getting up to a good production for him. Spazymazy really is just defending, and takes a very interesting 4th. I mean, he did break down the rock, so this isn't out of the question. It's just usually not what is seen as the 4th. Usually the, maybe 5th, but usually like the 6th, really. This is I don't know, it's not even that common for the other races, even when they expand this way. It's interesting. Well, we'll see how that works out for him. I mean, Spazymazy's got the handful of roaches. I'm surprised he's getting any more, because it really doesn't seem like he wants to go for a roach Hydra composition. He wants to go for a Hydra Baneling composition. He's almost set up to go for it. Unfortunately, having taken a little bit of drone loss here and there, this still does not have the ideal count, and is probably hitting later than he would have wanted. Centrifugal hooks will be done, but +2 will not. PappiJoe will just barely have charge and +1, but of course he has to be very careful with how he lets his zealots engage. They should just be kept back behind everything else. The Banelings crash in on it, and then they come forward to deal with the Hydralisk. That would be most ideal. But where PappiJoe, you know, maybe doesn't have the best upgrades, he does have a lot of really good tech units, and even a couple of Void Rays, which seems unnecessary, but he got them. Bit of a surround coming in here. Not a bad angle for Spazymazy. Void Rays do go down immediately. There's a lot of pylons being used here. The charge lots were kept back for the most part, unfortunately. At the last second there, I ran into the leftover Banelings, but that was a good enough trade for the Protoss, I would say. All of the Zerg army is going down here. It takes out all the Protoss army, mind you. It really was a trade, but I don't know if PappiJoe really has it in him to get bulked up quick enough to take advantage of this momentum. The Militia Corps is being rebuilt. There's a couple pylons left over. That probably could have been done better by PappiJoe, to be honest. Like, the whole surround issue was just nice from Spazymazy. That was a nice call from him. But a couple of force fields right here would have denied that, and that just would have been devastating for the attack. Obviously, a couple of force fields on this ramp as well. There is something to be said about just, like, kind of brute forcing it with enough Archons, Immortals, and Charge Lots. But there's also something to be said about, you know, investing, instead of 4 High Templars, 4 Sentries. That sometimes can be the better option. But I can't blame him for choosing the Archons. Usually Sentries, after a certain point in time, are just useless, but I feel they would have been very useful here. Not quite rolling that much in the gas, though, because he did go for the Archons, as well as Quick Storm. Fairly Quick Storm. So Storm is done. He even delayed +2 to afford that. Now he's on 8 gas geysers, though. That should be looking a lot easier for him. And Spazymazy really is using a composition that's going to start, you know, tapering off once the Archon count gets too high, once the Storms start rolling in. Economy's not bad. Again, 61 drones isn't perfect, but it's decent for 4 bases and on his way to a 5th as well. Storm isn't done, and PappiJoe's actually just been warping in a lot of Zealots and not so much Archons or Storms, so these Archons are getting picked apart before they can really soak up Banelings. Yeah, the good Baneling control from Spazymazy, and I feel like, yeah, once the charges are released, those Banelings are going to look absolutely fantastic. And I think PappiJoe just was unable to get a second good army. Like, his army really was majority charge lots, and I'm not sure why. He started banking enough gas, he got to those 7th and 8th gas geysers, and yet only was warping in charge lots. That's another situation where a couple of sentries would have been totally bally. They would have bought a lot of time. I feel like also his robo production wasn't focused on, because he only had like 3 Immortals right there, but I might be wrong. That might just be all he could afford in that time. GG, the Zerg player takes game number 1. This is a best of 3. So, I mean, it's not double elimination or anything. Really, if you're out, you're out, and that kind of sucks. Especially when it's such a limited bracket. You would have hoped, I guess, as the more recognizable player, at least for us. I don't know if PappiJoe thinks he's like the better player. I have no idea, but that he would be able to continue. Of course, other notable names would be Lily Canine, obviously, and Theo. Emperor M is someone that I think we've cast like once or twice. Theo was actually at the summit, at the Blizzard Summit, and was a cool guy to talk to. Space Marine is a recognizable name, but I feel like not really doing so much. And then I guess I don't really know anything about Spazymazy or Orion. I don't believe that the non-Americans can name all 50 states and pinpoint them on the map. I also think that if you do know how to do that, then you stored very useless information, and congratulations. You could have known 20 more, 50 more numbers in pi instead. And you chose to memorize the states. Why? Oh, very quickly into the next game. Boop, boop, boop. It's Frozen Temple. Using WCS Game Heart, whatever. It's better than nothing, I suppose. Whoopsie. No one saw that. That was on purpose. Alright, once again here in a PvZ. In the bottom right as the teal Zerg, it is Spazymazy. In the top left as the purple Protoss, he is PappiJoe. Not looking so hot against that specific style. I really thought he had a commanding presence on that game. Like, he was the only one really pushing out and doing a whole lot. Spazymazy had a couple of lings here and there, but it really was not, you know, nothing to write home about. Whereas PappiJoe, I think in total got like 14 drone kills, only lost 1 Phoenix and a handful of Adepts, like 4 Adepts, not even that much. I thought he had himself in a very good position. He got the 3rd base really up very quickly and was on his way to a 4th, but especially at that second fight, the composition was certainly lacking. And it is a stylistic, personal decision to go for sentries or for, like, faster storm, for instance. But I just think that's PappiJoe in that second fight, the decisive fight there, was an issue of actually just not being able to get enough of much of anything very good. Like, it seems like his gateway production was lackluster, which I meant to check his gateway count, but then the game ended. So I don't know what he was at and what he was missing, because 3 bases, you can be on 9 gateways. 8 is like, is okay initially, and then once everything's fully saturated, you can get up to a few more, but I don't know what he was on. I'll check that again here, because, I mean, if it works, don't fix it kind of deal for Spazymazy, I would say. Like, if the Hydra Baneling thing really worked out that well, then keep doing it. Frozen Temple's also got the potential for, like, Ling drops, and, I mean, anything else, really, the Zerg wants to do. The Zerg is kind of the one who sets the pace, who sets the composition of the game, and it is just Protoss defending for the mid-game most of the time and trying to react a little bit to the composition. Not much they can do differently. You know, it is mostly Immortals, Charge Lots, Archons, but there are some things they can react to. Like faster storm, right? Or a few more sentries or something like that if it is Banelings. And if it's Lurkers, then you could even go for Disruptors. You know, you really want to change things up. But for the Zerg, I mean, there's actually so much the Zerg can do. All-ins aside, which there are a couple of good ones on this map in particular, like quick Roach Ravager across the middle of that map. You got compositions. Lurker Hydra, Baneling Hydra, Roach Hydra, pure Roach Ravager, I suppose, if you really wanted to be very old school with it. And, I mean, even Transitions and Mutalisk kind of were coming back for a while there. And the more I think about it, I guess I just realized I haven't cast that many PvZs. So many TVTs lately with the Illuma League and whatnot, but it was definitely making a comeback. And I wonder if it's still consistent amongst ladder here. And Spazymazy gets a really good scout and sees something a little bit odd. That super early Robo. I mean, there's a Twilight Council with this. It looked like a Universe Terran build. It wouldn't be so bad. And if you got the scout that this is an Immortal popping out and not an Adept, with a couple more gateways somewhere else, then that would also been a more perfect scout. But seeing the timing on that, it's got to be a little suspicious. So I don't know what PappiJoe's plan is, except that there is a Immortal Sentry, or Immortal Adept all-in, rather. Of course, Immortal Sentry, I'm going to be in habit for saying that forever and ever, but yeah, it is going to be an Immortal Adept all-in. This is so old school. This is what people were trying to do when Protoss had no idea what to do, so they kind of fell back to their old standard of all-inning off of 2 bases. And you know what? It didn't work. People would scout this fairly easily, I would say. And then they just go for Ravagers. Ravagers aren't really countered by, well, they're literally not countered by Immortals, but Immortals still pack a punch, and Ravagers still have low health. But they can actually get those extra shots off. With Corrosive Bile, they got a little bit more range. They can move fairly quickly without that needing a speed upgrade. And they can take down a Warp Prism, which is usually the biggest problem. Is that it just stays there and is allowed to warp in over and over again because the queens can't quite reach it. But Spazymazy he knew what was going on. He saw the Robo. He doesn't even need to see all the other gateways, even though he probably could with an Overlord. And he is trying to build as many units as possible. 43 drones might be even a little bit too much, but it seems that with 30 more Lings on the way and Ravagers already made, I would say not. So I would say that's a pretty good count. That's not, you know, so low that he's just, you know, going to be out of luck production-wise, but it's also not so high that he risks losing the game. There are a couple of sentries in this composition, and that's also what the Corrosive Biles are going to be looking for. The Immortal already goes down, and that's just absolutely terrible. We have a second Warp Prism coming around, specifically for the combination of Micro and Warp-In, which is kind of a cool idea. Even with the Warp Prism's extended pickup range, it still can be very hard to do both. But he already lost the Immortal, and like that doesn't seem like a lot, because what, he only got one Immortal? Is that really the linchpin to this attack? I guess not. But it is indicative of how poorly this is going. To be caught on the ramp especially is really quite bad. So Corsair Biles right into the heart of the army, trying to get on the sentries, accidentally gets a couple of the Warp Prisms. The Lings are mostly gone, but there's still all the Roaches and Ravagers left over. The Queens are trying to get focus firing on that Warp Prism, and it's not going to work. The production of PappiJoe is not beating out Spazymazy's army and his production as well. He's still got larva injects going and whatnot. One Warp Prism finally goes down. A little risky what Spazymazy did right there, going down to those force fields like that, and probably should have broken them. But
game paused.
I have a please pause coming through here. Like that's if you were having messed up controls, this is a little bit too late to make that note. And well, oh. I don't got no reason for this. It just looks like he's letting it soak in that he's gonna be out in the first match of the day. Usually given a minute, they provide the reason for the pause. Unless all of his keys except the P is broken.
Game resumed.
Oh, there you go. Don't know what was up, but that, you know, could have also been a GG, and I wouldn't have been surprised. Instead of a PP. PP. Because this game is pretty much over. PappiJoe, even though he's trying to build probes again, getting his gas geysers, the army supply is just something you can't really recover from. He's going to be in danger of being counterattacked first and foremost, but also, like, additionally, if he tries to do another follow-up all-in, you know, all-in, if that doesn't work, all-in again type deal, he just won't be able to get a better army. Triple the army supply. That Warp Prism's going to be targeted here, and that's really the end of things. That's game. I don't know why PappiJoe tried to do that. It's really like a very old-fashioned all-in, and if it is scouted, it is basically useless. So I think that was the first problem, which he could not necessarily help. Accidentally lets two Lings in. You're not going to be able to really change your plan on the fly, but I don't even know about that, you know? There's like Alrena, New Gettysburg has this one Protoss build where you would go for like this very small Immortal Sentry push. It really is supposed to abuse the bridge factor though, which obviously it couldn't do in Frozen Temple, but then it goes into a macro game, so I'm not even sure, because of how early that Ling scouted, he couldn't have changed his mind to a you know, not ideal macro game, but better than trying that all in. That all in has not been impressive ever. Once people realized that Ravagers were good, that one really fell off. But oh well. That's game, and that's series. Zerg player will advance on to face... well, the brackets are really lined up weird. Yeah, to face Licanine. I think that'll be the first semifinal we get into. So, Theo, Emperor M, Orin, Space Marine, all of them still duking it out. Don't know what their scores look like. But we will be going to a break while we wait for the semifinal to be set up. See you soon.